Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Pearl Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of 3 to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Today, we will talk about human trafficking. Human trafficking, also known as modern-day slavery, is a crime that involves coercing a person to provide labor or services or to engage in commercial sex acts. Human rights are something that everyone should have, and when it's violated, it's a crime against humanity. Human trafficking is a massive violation of human rights. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked worldwide. Most people think that this does not exist in America. Actually, United States is a major destination for this, and California is one of the largest sites of human trafficking. Victims can be any age, race, gender, or nationality. They may come from any socioeconomic group. Sex trafficking is a major problem, but that's not the only type of human trafficking. Forced labor is another type. Victims are often found in many sweatshops, restaurants, and other domestic services. Today, we're lucky enough to have Ana Marquez on my show to tell us more about human trafficking and how we can become more aware of this nationwide problem. Ana Marquez is the Director of Development for AeroAngel. She has worked in the nonprofit industry for the last 5 years, most recently in human trafficking education and prevention. Working with others and making a difference has always been a priority in her life and is a strong passion for Ana. Currently, she works for an amazing organization called AeroAngels. AeroAngel is a unique national aviation charity that helps children with severe illnesses who cannot travel with commercial airlines, but instead fly safely to distant life-saving medical care. AeroAngel is the only charity in the country that provides free private jet. Ana has a sincere love for this mission at AeroAngel and the rewarding feeling the team receives with each accomplished flight. Hi, Ana. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast today.
Hi,
I've known you for many, many years, and I know how much you love to give back in the community. And I really, really admire you for that. So if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us how you got involved in human trafficking in the first place, and shed some light on this very important matter.
So as you guys heard in Pearl's beautiful introduction, thank you. I have been working in the nonprofit professionally for about 5 years, but I've really always been involved in giving back different organizations. And personally, prior to working in human trafficking, I was really passionate about educating on childhood sexual abuse. I myself am a victim. I like to say, I actually don't like to say victim anymore. I like to say survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And it was back in the 80s when my story happened. And the world has really changed around sexual abuse prevention since the 80s. And we've taken big strides, but it all kind of interplays within human trafficking. And we'll get into that a little bit later in some of the questions you're going to ask me. But most children that were sexually abused go into being trafficked in some way or another. So for me, when I was first doing my work, I really felt passionate about speaking about that. And then I had the opportunity to work for the Global Center for Women and Justice for almost 2 years in doing education and prevention around human trafficking. And they all kind of coincide together. So that was kind of how I got involved personally.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful journey, but it has taught you so much. And we're glad that you're here so you can teach us more about it.
Yes.
So what are some human trafficking indicators?
It's hard to actually put an exact indicator on what human trafficking is. Like you mentioned, and I'm so glad you mentioned the labor trafficking portion, because that is actually statistically way higher percentage-wise in the trafficking world than actual sex trafficking. And people tend to look over it because it's not as horrific sounding as sex trafficking, right? Especially in children. But it is a big problem and a bigger problem than most. So I think some of the signs are just really understanding where you are, the person that you're with. You know, if you see signs of, let's talk about children for a minute. If you see signs of a child that they look a little neglected. They are, acting out. They look down, they can't look you in the eye. Just like typical signs of almost like abuse is a really good thing to look for in children. They used to look for mixed race families that didn't look like they fit, right? So if you had like a Caucasian mom and dad, and then like a Latino looking child or something, that used to be an indicator, like going through the airport, stuff like that, where people get stopped. Well, now our world is so diverse and mixed, so that's not a sign that we can look for anymore. I did a lot of TSA training as well in the airports, and that was one of their signs. But now you can't racially profile, of course, because thankfully we've moved forward in society, but that was a sign that they used to talk about, but now it's really more of an abused look. And even in a human, like an older human being that may be labor trafficked, there's been a lot of stories that I personally witnessed of nannies in homes, even around here in Orange County, that were barely being paid. People would withhold their payments. They kept showing up to work because they needed something and they weren't getting anything from anywhere, and they might be illegal and they don't have any other means of money. For me, it's really been about, when I meet someone, getting to know that person and getting to know their background, because you just really never know. A lot of these people that are being trafficked hide it, and they hide it really well, because either A, it's a child that's been, groomed their entire life, or B, it's an adult that is so afraid of potentially being deported based on, their current situation, or they're afraid of the abuse that might incur if they actually tell the truth. So it's just really getting to know people that you're around, your surroundings, who your neighbors are, who's living in their neighbor's home. And if we have a minute, I can tell a quick story of the very first labor trafficking case in Orange County. It was around 2002, I believe, in Irvine, and very beautiful homes in Irvine. This family came from the Middle East and took a child. There was a whole situation with another child in this family, and they sold their daughter to repay a debt, and she was 8 years old. That family took her here. They went through JFK and they went through LAX, and no one stopped them. They had illegal paperwork on her. They had a, falsified passport, the whole thing, and brought her here to Irvine. And she was their slave for their 4 children. She cooked, she cleaned, she bathed the children at 8 years old. She took care of everything.
8 years old.
8 years old.
That is just so horrific. I can't even wrap my brain around it.
Yes. So 8 years old, from 8 until 12 years old, she was with this family. She lived in the garage on a mattress, no sheets, no blankets. She only was allowed to eat anyone's leftovers. It goes on and on. I bring the story up to say the thing that saved her was a neighborhood child was playing in the neighborhood one day. And she said that she noticed this girl in this family's garage, and she'd seen her every once in a while. One day she was homesick from school and went out to get the mail, or was outside, and saw this little girl in the garage. And she told her mom, she said, "Mom, I've seen her a couple of times and I've noticed she doesn't go to school." Well, then the mom felt like something was wrong, notified the authorities. One thing led to another, and she was a trafficked child that the family had sold. Now, even though the family sold her in Egypt, it's still illegal in our country, obviously, for this to be happening. She was taken in by Orangewood. She only spoke Egyptian. She did not speak English. It took years for them to get her to even speak and testify against this family, but they finally gained her trust. And now she's actually a good friend of mine. We have a relationship. She's a wonderful person. She has children of her own. She's married and she's living a beautiful life. But I bring that up to say that was a sign. This child saw something that didn't seem right. So if you ever see something that just doesn't seem right, you don't need to shout it from the rooftops or go, make a big dramatic scene. But reach out to the proper people, the authorities. Pearl's going to put some human trafficking websites up. There's phone numbers and stuff like that you can call as well.
Wow, that is such a
right in our
horrible
backyard
story. It just shocks me. And the crazy thing is, we think about like slavery and history, and we think it's over. We've come a long way, and here to come to find out that this is still happening in this day and age, like especially an 8-year-old. It's horrible. Now that's a story with with a different country. But how would you tell us that we need to be aware of that traffickers can kind of lure their victims right here, let's say in Orange County in America?
So I'll be completely transparent with you guys. There's been a ton of stuff on Instagram and social media about this person was following me in Target. This person had a white van outside of Cheesecake Factory. I think they almost kidnapped me, all of that stuff. While I don't ever want to discredit, and law enforcement doesn't want to ever discredit people's fears and things from happening, the likelihood of that actually happening and kidnapping from trafficking is not, knock on wood, happening to you and I primarily. There's always the off the cuff cases, but primarily your kids are safer with you at Target than they are online, because that's where it's happening.
Exactly.
They are grooming them online. They are following these children who have social media accounts, whether it's through their video games that they're playing or their Instagram or their Snap or their whatever the new stuff is these days, because I can't keep up with it anymore. They will follow these children, and they will look for vulnerability. They'll look for loneliness. They'll look for, do they have loving parents, or do they ever talk about their parents, post about their parents? What's their family like? They are so good and such experts that they will find the most vulnerable children. And that's really who's at risk as well. Primarily in Orange County, our vulnerable children are our foster care system children, because 90% of them have been sexually abused as a child. So they're already vulnerable. And B, most of those children are lonely and looking for something to belong to. They want a father figure. They want a mother figure. They want something more than what's just in their foster home. They're dying to be loved.
They're desperate, right?
Feel loved. So then here comes this expert groomer who knows exactly what to say to them and how to get them and lure them to their location. Then they make them feel comfortable. They treat them like a prince or a princess for a few months. And then the sexual abuse starts. It starts slow. It starts with, well, if you just do this, like, I'm going to buy you this tomorrow. Oh, and I have a friend that's coming over next week. If you do XYZ to him, then I'll give you XYZ. And they make it so it's almost normal. And that's really how the grooming begins. The things that you see on the news with these people that are being grabbed into vans and taken around Target, usually, again, I don't want to misquote myself, but usually, not always, usually those are kids that have already been in the life. They've already been with their pimps, or they've already been being trafficked, and they're now trying to get out and run away, and they kidnap them back to bring them back in. So those are usually the things that you're seeing. And those details don't come out to public because usually law enforcement is working hard on a case, and it takes months and months and months to build it and crack it. Again, there's always your off the cuff situations. You always want to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on, of course, with your children, but that's the kidnapping side of it. And then our children, like your children, my children, online, even if it's not grooming, it could be sending a sexual picture. It could be grooming them for their own sexual desires, right? Like if you do XYZ, no one has to know. And kids, if we're not talking to our kids and letting them know what's right from wrong, and we're not having these open dialogue conversations, they could fall into being groomed sexually online as well.
So, I mean, what tools do you think we can, as parents, give to our children to empower them to avoid this situation? Because obviously, I mean, the internet and social media is a huge factor, and that's the fight that we are never going to win, because it's going to be out there forever. Yeah. So what can we do?
First and foremost is having hard conversations with your kids, age appropriate, constantly talking to them, even when they're like, Mom, I know, I don't want to hear about it anymore. You've told me 1,000 times. Well, great. You're going to hear about it today again. Always normalizing. I'll say starting from a young age, normalizing using words like penis and vagina. It makes you shudder and it cringe because you want to say the cutesy words, right? Because we don't ever want to say that. But using those words helps children know that it's okay to talk about those with mommy, daddy, a doctor, and not feel ashamed if something does happen to them. They can describe what's happened to them.
That's a wonderful point. I love that.
Especially to law enforcement. So if they say someone touched my hoo-ha, they'll say, well, what is your hoo-ha, right? Someone touched my vagina. Okay, this is a sexual, abuse issue. So starting young, I'm talking like preschool age, using those words with your kids, telling them that it's never okay to be touched by anyone other than at the doctor's office when the doctor needs to examine something and mommy and daddy are there making sure that that child is safe. Really having those conversations that are hard, right? So it starts with that. Then you move into like a little bit of the younger adolescent kids, started talking about what happens online. Why do I not want you playing with certain people? Why do I, have privacy settings? It's because this is happening in the world. You want to do it age appropriately, of course. And every child is different. So I can't give you guys tools or guidelines for each age because like in my family, my 11-year-old is way more advanced because he's got a 16-year-old brother than an 11-year-old that would be the oldest in the family, right? So everything is age appropriate. And then as they get into, their teen years, talking about sex openly, making it not something that is taboo, talking about what healthy relationships look like, what healthy people look like that are talking about sexual topics, really just constantly reminding them of what happens out in the world. So I send my kids articles all the time, whether it's on grooming, whether it's on the latest person that was, sex trafficked, fentanyl overdoses, whatever it may be. I mean, they think I'm absolutely crazy and they think that I think that they're doing it because I send it to them, but I know deep down inside, they know what I'm doing and they know why I'm doing it. And just really keeping that open dialogue with your kids is just so important. I can't stress enough. I think our parents' generation, it was, don't ask, don't tell. Like, we don't talk about anything, hush, hush, everything's fine. We don't want to know.
And I think it was very like protecting the children, right? So we don't talk about it, don't watch the news, we don't tell them anything. But this day and age, we can't live like that.
Hide it. They're going to see it every day. So if they know that we're a safe person because we're constantly talking to them about it, then they'll come to us when they need to. At least we would hope that they would, right? We're giving them that opportunity. There's also another great website that I'll have you post. It's a nonprofit. It's Ashton Kutcher actually started it. It's called Thorn. They are primarily fighting sex trafficking online. That is their number one goal. They have amazing resources for parents. They have incredible programs, great TED Talks, just really, really great resources. They're doing amazing.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good. Is there like a certain age that you think that are being targeted, or really at this point, it just doesn't even matter anymore?
It's most girls being targeted age 12 to about 17. About 12 to 14 is really like the main group because they're still very impressionable.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. That's the really hard age as it is already. They're starting to dislike their parents and they're trying to discover themselves. So it's a perfect time for them to get, lured into this craziness.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there anything else that you can talk about? Any other information that you have?
I'd say really do your research on where you are in Orange County. I want parents to feel like their kids are safe because we still are safe. Last year, there were 0 kidnappings in Orange County, 0, which is amazing. And anything that would have classified as a kidnapping would have been like an Amber Alert, a custody situation, stuff like that. But really be aware of what your kids are doing online. Look through their phones. It's a different generation now. It's not the time where, my dad would always tell me, you can write in your journal and you can leave it wide open and I'll never look at it. And that's great. But unfortunately, it is the time that we have to look at stuff that our kids are doing. It just is. My kids have an open policy with me. They know that if they have a cell phone, that at any moment I can go through it. I can ask for it. So it's not like, kids are smart. They can delete everything that they want to delete throughout the day. But if they know that any moment I could go through it and I have that access because they're living under my home, these are our rules. It may seem like an invasion of privacy to some that are listening right now, but it's really a way of protecting children because phones are different. Social media access is different. Grooming children is different. It used to be the little white dog with candy, out of the white van. And now it's online.
Truck.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
So stranger danger. Just continuously talk to your kids. That's my number one thing. And then also pay attention to where you're shopping, where you are, your massage parlors, where you're going. Does something seem off? Does someone seem like they're being quiet or secretive? Always keep your feelers up. I know we can't go around this world, constantly looking for problems and troubles, but if you feel something, if you hear something, if the slightest thing just doesn't seem right, contact your authorities. It doesn't hurt. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Of course. Listen to your intuition.
And I will say for children too, if you see something that's off in another child, or if your child says something to you about a friend, don't ever go to their parents because they could be in an abusive situation and they will get abused even harder and worse for letting it show. Always go to the school, an authority figure, a principal, a teacher, someone that's trained and a mandated reporter, but do not go to parents with concerns about their child because you never know what's actually going on behind the scenes.
That's a very good point. That's very true. Things can obviously get worse for them.
Yeah.
Wow. This was wonderful, but it's a hard conversations that we have to have, especially as parents. I mean, unfortunately, we know that human trafficking exists. We can do our best to let our children know how to protect themselves. As parents, we need to know what our children are doing online and teach them, like Anna said, about internet safety, talk to them about sexual exploitation, about sexting. And then we also need to educate ourselves as parents to know all the different apps and websites that our children are visiting. And I mean, the technology is changing continuously and the kids know a lot more than us, but we have to, it's a lot of work, but we have to educate ourselves to know exactly what's out there and what they're doing, because the kids are usually at least 1 or 2 or maybe 10 steps ahead of us. Those are the things that we can do to take cautionary acts to protect our kids as much as possible. Thank you, Anna, for being a wonderful guest today. You did a great job educating us on this important topic. If you would like to get involved, please visit humantraffickinghotline.org. And Anna also gave us another website, which I will put in the notes. Also, if you know someone that could benefit from using AeroAngel, please visit aeroangel.org or contact Anna at aeroangel.org and follow her on Instagram at Marquez_party of 6. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Of course.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together, we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.